sir.
Good evening to you. I'm from Pune and I joined Indian Navy in a direct entry. I'm from a Ferguson College of Pune, Fergusonian. There is a path in which we can go directly, and I joined in 1970. And the Yankees was the only fully trained batch from the Indian Navy to fight the war. The day we completed our training, we went into the scrap. And to be honest, after retirement also, because after leaving the Navy, after completing my tenure of 7 years, I came out, went abroad, worked in Saudi Arabia, was running a mini city for almost 5 years, earned considerable money, came back to India. I did a lot of things. Primarily, I had taken to teaching. So I teach in the MBA colleges and also more than 140 companies. Take their what is known. I think on that note, we'll start. All of us, we vividly remember 4th of December, 1971, the day. Of course, I'm not belittling the contribution. Wars are fought and won with complete cooperation and coordination between all the three forces. So everyone, the Indian Air Force, the Indian Navy, the Army, all of them, they worked together. Therefore, there was such a spectacular. Do you know there are only 14 wars in the entire history of mankind which proved to be decisive? I think this is the 15th war which resulted into something new. I'll give you an example. After the Second World War, Germany remained as Germany, France remained as France, Poland remained as Poland. This was a war, a new nation was born. That was Bangladesh. So I will put it into the 15th most decisive war of the world, 4th of December 1971. The day which Pakistanis will remember because whole of Karachi, there was a rain of death coming from the missile boats. Even today, because in the Gulf countries, in Saudi Arabia, I have worked with the Pakistanis. The thought of this death coming through the air, even today, rattles them. In those days, there were two Pakistan actually. One was West Pakistan and another was East Pakistan. There was an election. Since ostensibly it was a democracy, I'll say ostensibly because you know what type of a democracy Pakistan has. But ostensibly there is a democracy. So there was an election. In the election, Awami Party, which was headed by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman.
Good evening, sir.
Very, very good evening to you. So between two Pakistan, actually there used to be air communication. And then the Pakistanis, they had a nasty hijack. They blew up the plane in Lahore. So India, very rightly, it stopped the overflights, even the commercial flights over India. Therefore, stage was set because the Pakistanis had no other way than to go around Sri Lanka. So communication became longer, communication became very expensive. Actually, since East and West Pakistan were one nation, Awami Party, which had Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, we got elected, should have become the president of combined Pakistan. Instead of that, they arrested him. They put him in jail. I think he was whisked away and sent to Lahore. And, as compared to the West Pakistanis, the East Pakistani, now Bangladesh, they are more intelligent people, they are educated people, they are sensitive people. So the Pakistani army first started their brutal tactics in the Dhaka University. Their brutal tactics were so horrible. The figures may differ. Rape was used as a standard method. How many women got raped is a point of debate, but some figures give as high as 200,000. There was a panic in then East Pakistan, and waves of refugees came to India, and there was an unbelievable burden, which was initially 9 million East Pakistanis came to India, putting an enormous burden on the nation. If you Google it on the Wikipedia, you will notice even one would expect that the entire world will be on the side of who is right. But in the international relation, who is right, it doesn't matter. What is advantageous matters. It is always the self-interest. So if you go through the Wikipedia, only two nations were with India. One was India itself and one was the newly formed government of Bangladesh. Whole world was with Pakistanis. Entire world. You check up. In fact, I also find it very, very strange that not a single nation thought that we should be with what is correct. So Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was arrested. Bengalis started running and came to India as refugees. In those days, I was in the Indian Navy, very young, extremely dashing those days. and I was in the fleet tanker by the name INS Deepak. In those days, we only had one tanker, so the entire Indian Navy's Western Fleet was over-dependent on a single tanker. God forbid if the Pakistanis put a torpedo in it, I think the Western Fleet would have to withdraw because there is a limited fuel in most of the warships, especially when they go at high speeds. You'll be astonished. Most of the time, we were near the coast of Oman. We knew 100%, and the group captain sir will agree with me, Pakistanis surely did not have the capacity to fight in the night. So the Indian Navy was very, very wise, race towards Pakistan by the and run away, put as many miles by the day so that they will have more area, more distance to cover. As I told you, I was in INS Deepak. Deepak, even though a naval ship, when the war loomed at the large, rapidly was converted to look like a merchant ship. In fact, wooden derricks were put so that from a distance, it would look like a proper merchant ship only. I think 51 years have passed. Do you know, we even changed the name, and the name which was taken was Krasnaya Prasnaya. You can see that it is a very Krishna will be Prasanna, something like that. The name was changed. INS Deepak had 5 guns, 3 40-60, and there were a rapid firing gun by the name Hispano-Suiza. It could fire 650 rounds a minute. So out of the 5 guns which Deepak had, 3 guns were under me. Okay. Our captain, he was from Kerala. His name was Captain P.C. Andrews. A Keralite. Not many times in life we are really, but I always thank God that he gave me opportunity to serve under such an incredible person, Captain P.C. Andrews. Why I'm saying is so incredible because the senior most officer who was a vice admiral, his name was Admiral Gandhi. Admiral Gandhi himself used to go for an attack. And I wonder really how many senior officers will risk their own life. Admiral Gandhi could have easily taken a shore appointment. He knew that we are going to attack 2 ports, Gwadar and Pasni. Gwadar and Pasni, and he never took a shore appointment. So when he is to peel off, to go in for attack, the next senior most officer, which was Captain P.C. Andrews, he is to take the overall charge of the Western Fleet. So actually, I could see how the entire naval war in the Western Front was conducted. In 1970s, a Russian ship, in those days, Russia was Soviet Union. One ship brought 8 missile boats. These missile boats were of OSA type, and the OSAs, it weighs 207 tons. You will be astonished. In those days, even Mumbai port did not have a crane which could lift it and put it in the sea. Impossible. No crane available, but there was a crane which was available in the Kolkata port. So the Russian ship went to Kolkata and they unloaded the 8 missile boats. Of course, missiles were not unloaded, missiles came separately. Only the boats were unloaded. But can you imagine a 207-ton boat? Not a single port in India had a suitable crane. Now imagine the boats are in Kolkata, and where they will be needed to attack on the western side because everyone knew that we'll have to enter the lion's den. We'll have to enter and finish off the Pakistanis' biggest base was Karachi. In those days, Pakistanis only had one major naval base. Now there are 3. Those days, they had only one base. To win the war, we had to interdict the supplies going from the West Pakistan to East Pakistan. So if the war supplies are stopped, what would happen is Indian Army will be able to crush them. But the essential part was the Indian Navy must stop the supplies going from West Pakistan to East Pakistan. Now, instead of these tactics, which would be a defensive tactics, it was decided to enter the lion's den. And the missile men were more than eager. Because in a missile boat, there are hardly 20, the crew is only 27. It is not difficult to find 100 people to die for the nation. Very easy. So, it was decided to go and attack Karachi itself, the only port which the Pakistanis had. Okay, OSA class missile boat. Even though exceedingly small, it carried 4 missiles. The missiles were Styx missile. Styx missile, I had sent the photographs. It is a subsonic missile. It goes slowly. In fact, the Pakistanis, when they are getting attacked, they actually thought it is the air attack and it is not a missile attack. So they tried to shoot it down actually and failed, of course. It's a subsonic missile, but super accurate. The OSAS, this which had 4 sticks missile. Stick missile is a surface to surface missile, and I'm sure many of you are far more technologically more educated than me. Sticks missile has an active homing radar. Means it flies very slowly, subsonic. It's not supersonic, unlike the BrahMos of today, and it looks for the target. The radar is not passive radar; it is an active homing radar, and it will look at the biggest metal object and then ram into it. An aircraft comes, because aircraft has to go and come back. You can more, I think, not so difficult to shoot it down. But here it comes on you. It is heading for the enemy only. I think it is much more difficult to shoot it down. The OSAS, they had 3 engines. Each engine is to develop 4,000 horsepower. Now, when these 3 engines were started, can you imagine 12,000 horsepower in a small ship? Once all the 4 engines were started, literally the OSAS used to fly on the water. The problem is, it's a small, actually the Russians use it for harbor defense. Arabian Sea, those of you, I don't know how many of you have gone in the sea. Generally, Arabian Sea, especially during the monsoons, is quite rough. Not suitable for a 200 tonner, it might capsize also. But in the month of December, the sea was like a mirror, absolutely flat, making it possible for the OSAS to go even at full speed. If the sea was rough, they would sink actually. Not only they would sink, I'm sure you know that if there is too much of rolling and pitching, even the radars will find it difficult to lock onto the target. The problem was, can you imagine if 12,000 horsepower engines are used, fuel will get exhausted very, very fast. So Navy had 2 solutions. One, there were 2 mini tankers, INS Poshak and INS Purak. Each of them, they could transfer 700 tons of fuel. So if you go racing an attack, on the way back, the missile boats will run out of fuel. But it did not happen because cunningly we had placed our INS Poshak at a suitable place. Why Karachi was to be attacked? I think this speaks volumes of the daring of the Indian naval strategic thinkers. I don't think even in the wildest dreams, the Pakistani planners would have thought, because in one of the attack, the attacking fleet went as close as 16 kilometers. Now 16 kilometers, many of the naval guns can reach. Indian Navy 100% knew the Pakistanis are weak in the night fighting. So simple solution was race towards Pakistan in the night, run away from Pakistan by day. So put maximum distance lest Pakistani Air Force does not get a chance to attack. Okay. One brilliant idea was, instead of using the engines, tie ropes behind warships and tow the missile boats behind them. This is how we learned it, that the missile boats which landed in Kolkata actually were towed first to Mumbai, then called Bombay, and then taken to Okha. Now the distances are, it is almost 700 kilometers. So instead of using the engine power, frigates had tied ropes behind them and dragged the missile boats. That was the Western Fleet. Now I will give you a shock. Western Fleet, because Pakistanis did have few maritime reconnaissance aircrafts. At that time I was young, and youngsters are brash. And on the 2nd and 3rd of a Pakistani maritime reconnaissance aircraft, a French aircraft by the company Brequet Atlantic, it actually flew over the fleet. So one of my batchmates, which was in INS Trishul, they were eager to fire on it. So I was also very eager that I can shoot him down, because even if you don't have much practice, when you fire 700 rounds a minute, I think some stray round will hit. Of course, war had not started, so I told to shut up. French aircraft by the name Brequet Atlantic. So the Pakis knew that the Indians are going to attack. In those days, even though today I'm wearing specs, I used to take a pride. I have the sharpest eyes in any ship. In fact, I had thrown a challenge. If anyone sights anything that belongs to enemy ahead of me, there is a chocolate by the name Mars. Mars, you get it in every nook and corner. Those days, only Navy used to have it. So I had put a challenge, a box of 6 Mars chocolate. I had kept it on the bridge. Anyone who sights anything of an enemy ahead of me, the box is his. To cut the story short, at the end of the war, I had to eat all the chocolates. Nobody could see ahead of me. Since the captain of INS Deepak, Captain P.C. Andrews, 4-ringer, extremely dashing person, fearless, as brave as they come. In fact, if he was on the bridge, everyone will become, ordinary Khaddus also will become very, very brave. First attack, the operation was called Operation Trident. And there were 2 Petia class corvettes. Now, Petia is a technological marvel, exactly like the Ozas. It's a corvette. Corvette is a very small warship. It is hardly weighing 1,000 tons. Those of us who had an opportunity to see the Petias going into action, my God, when they used to fire the rockets, it was dozens of lions roaring at a single time. What a spectacular sight. So Petias were very, very formidable. So for the attack, 2 Petias were chosen. Many of you may not be able to identify it. One was INS Arnala and second one was INS Kachal. Now Arnala and Kachal, these are some of the islands which India has. The problem in India is we simply don't know this nation. Any idea how many islands India has? India possesses more than 1,000 islands. One on the east side there are Lakshadweep, and and on the east there is Andamans and Nicobars, a chain which runs almost 750 kilometers. It is virtually armor of India, and we have Lakshadweep western side. The missile boats, later called as the killers, they were of the 22nd Squadron. After the war, a small piddly-looking missile boat had a massive letters written on it was killers of the Indian Navy. On the night of 3rd and the 4th December 1971. As I told you, we used to put maximum distance by day and go towards the Pakistani coast by the night. So, and my watch used to be 4 to 8 in the morning, dawn and dusk time. But this is the time when the maximum action takes place. So we saw the attacking fleet, gave them fuel. By 10:30, they were off Karachi. And they were under command of Commander P.B. Yadav, Babru Bhavan Yadav, who later got Mahavir Chakra. In fact, all the missile boats which attacked Karachi, the captains got Veer Chakra. Even my captain got a Veer Chakra. The first to go in were 2 Petias who had the Ozas. The first one was INS Nirghat. As the ropes were released and they started their massive engines racing towards the targets, and sure enough, Pakistanis came to intercept them. In those days, Pakistan had 8 major warships, 8. The first 2 which came, and they have only one harbor, they have only one channel through which they can come. Through that channel came 2 warships by the name of PNS Khyber and PNS Shah Jahan. You can see the hatred of the Pakistanis in the names of their warship. They have, the cruiser's name is PNS Babar, they have Alamgir, they have Shah Jahan, but there is no Akbar. It's a pure Islamic nation. So, as PNS Khyber came, immediately Nirghat fired 2 Styx missiles. As I told you, the Pakis were puzzled. They all the time used to think that because the Styx missile, it resembles an aircraft. It is subsonic, it's not supersonic. I tried to shoot it down and miserably failed because it is going to come on you only. It is not going to overfly. It struck PNS Khyber and it hit it on the boilers. Boiler area is one of the biggest by area. Otherwise, rest of the places, if it hits, there are compartments where you can control the flooding. Once the boilers were hit, massive flooding took place and PNS Khyber sank. Most of their crew, more than 200 of them, died. Can you imagine? The battle took place in the sight of the Pakistanis in Karachi. Actually, when I was in Saudi Arabia, I could meet people. Of course, there we were friendly. We had not gone there for fighting. Yes, Babru Bhan Yadav. Thank you for sharing. Commander Babru Bhan Yadav got a Mahavir Chakra. But in the slide, on the left side is our Chief of the Naval Staff. Actually, Chief of the Naval Staff, in those days, he hails from Karachi. He knew Karachi like a back of his hand. Thank you for sharing the slide. INS Nipat, it fired 2 missiles which went and hit an American ship. The name of the ship was Venus Challenger. Venus Challenger had actually come from a Vietnamese port by the name Da Nang, and it was carrying ammunition. The moment it was hit, you can imagine a ship carrying ammunition gets hit by a missile. It exploded with a vengeance, and that fire was described as the biggest blaze after the Second World War. Second missile, as I told you, there was no super skill required because the missiles were active homing missiles. They used to seek the target and lock onto it. The missile of INS Nipat, it closed onto PNS Shah Jahan. It hit it, sank. As I told you, the Styx missile has an active homing radar. It goes and it looks for the target. Whichever is the biggest target, it locks onto it and rams it. And behold, the biggest target was Cambry oil tanks. So it locked onto the Cambry oil tanks and slammed into it. Entire Pakistan's oil reserves were only in one place. They caught fire. Actually, it was in the second attack. Now, many of us, what did you do? And many of us, we pat ourselves on the back. So many of those who are listeners will say, if you did so much, then what was the rest of the Navy doing? Actually, the second attack was within 1 week of the first attack. Now imagine if you have already attacked a port, first time you have an advantage of surprise. If you try to attack it second time, enemy would be more than ready for you. So at that time, no electronic equipment could be used. Total silence, no communication, no radars, no sonars. I really wish I had the presence of mind. So there is an instrument called sextant. On that lucky day, because I always used to from 4 to 8 morning watch and 4 to 8 evening watch. With the sextant, I could take 7 stars and the 1 in a 10,000 thing happened. All the 7 stars cut in a single point. This is impossibility. Normally, even if you have 3 stars, they will make a triangle, which is called as a cocked hat. When 7 stars are cutting through the same point, I could be absolutely certain of my position, that we are here. Just steam in this direction, 180 kilometers, hit Karachi. Actually, it came much earlier because the battle developed 40 kilometers earlier only. Now we do have many people from the Air Force. We have Group Captain D.K. Das, Veer Chakra, we have Chandrakant Bapat. Okay, so when the attack was pressed home, as I told you, one of the missiles which missed locked onto the Cambry oil tanks, creating a massive blaze. And 4 Canberras of the Indian Air Force came under Wing Commander Gautam. We did not even have to aim because there was a massive blaze which was coming. He just dropped the bombs in the blaze and came back and collected his Mahavir Chakra. Total destruction of all the fuel reserves of Pakistan. I'm telling you, even though I was a Sabi, we knew war is over. Without fuel, who can fight? And because of such a massive damage, and India had declared that 50 kilometers from Karachi any ship will be considered hostile only when we will sink it. Total stoppage of all the marine traffic. In fact, it was only the Iranians, no other Arab nation or Islamic nation supported Pakistan. In fact, in those days, there was President Abdul Gabal Nasser. There were many ships bringing ammunition, war material for Pakistan. He really helped India when the ships were passing the Suez Canal. He allowed them to enter and then blocked them. Neither they could go back nor they could go forward. But there are 3 lakes. They are told you go and wait. So actually, Egypt really helped India. Iranians themselves got so panicky. In fact, Iranian in those royal, because there was Shah of Iran in those days, they actually attacked by mistake of course, they attacked PNS Zulfikar. PNS Zulfikar is one of the frigates, but some very person with a brilliant presence of mind, he took out the biggest flag and waved, preventing further attacks. Otherwise, it would have been interesting to own your own aircrafts or your friendly aircraft sink your own ships. There were casualties, but there were no deaths. Many say, people normally say, what did you contribute? I was one of the 1.5 million Indians who fought. I was just one of them. And I didn't do anything very great. I just did what was our duty. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. But maybe I performed brilliantly. I'll give you the reason. It has been 50 years from that war. I hold a wartime record. I got the fastest watch-keeping ticket in the naval history. February of 1971 was not a leap year. Can you believe I got my watch-keeping ticket in 88 days only? What is a watch-keeping ticket? Watch-keeping ticket is a certificate that you can take command of a ship independently. Now the naval orders have been changed. It is 90 days or 3 months, whichever is later. So my record, a wartime record, will stand forever. In those days, we are young, dashing. I had not taken on my uniform. I had there is nothing to do with bravery. It has nothing to do with anything else. Just a duty which you should do it and so well all the time, barring 2 to 3 hours in the night. I used to be on the bridge only, continuously working. no rest required. After the second attack, I knew 100% Pakis are finished. Then I had my first 4 hours of sleep. Okay, what were the losses to the Pakistanis? As I mentioned, they had 8 warships. They lost 2 out of 8. Which were the 2 out of 8?
Shahjahan and this one.
Very correct. Shahjahan and
the challengers.
No.
Yes.
Khyber.
And they also lost one of the missile had struck minesweeper.
What is that?
Which sank.
What
Name
was
of
the
the
name?
minesweeper was Muhafiz.
Muhafiz. Okay.
Yes. In addition, they had patrol boats. They were called Rajeshai type of patrol boats. Out of the 4 patrol boats which were strafed by the Indian Air Force so much, only Rajeshai, which had 40 hits, could be taken to Thailand and survived. All other 3 boats, Komila, Cox's Bazar, were sunk. So out of the 4 patrol boats, they lost 3. Out of the 8 major warships, they lost 2. And they lost their solitary minesweeper also. What about the second attack? As I mentioned to you, second attack, Admiral Gandhi himself had gone. I really wonder. We always talk about General Romel is to lead from the front, lead by example. You know far better than me how many of us, how many senior officers actually put their neck and go at the fronts. I think it is far and few. But Admiral Gandhi, we went in INS Mysore. INS Mysore had 6 inches guns. I really think if they had an opportunity to open their fire, it was done. Either it would have been Gwadar, or there is a port called Jiwani, a minor port, or Pasni. Before he could reach, he was detected by motor vessel Madhumati, which quickly radioed that Indian fleet is attacking, so Pakistan Air Force must be waiting for us. But we could easily capture Madhumati itself. In the war, 3 Pakistani merchant ships were captured and pressed into India. The name of the ships were Anwar Baksh, Bakir and Madhumati. There was a very elusive type of a ship who evaded us throughout, and all the Indian Air Force super constellations operating from Pune. And we also had another 4-engined aircraft. There's a half a squadron operating from Pune. We could not locate it only. I don't know. The name of that ship was Makbul Baksh. I don't know how the super connies just could not detect them. Anwar Baksh, Madhumati and Pasni. 3 warships. 3 of the merchant ships were captured. What about their American submarine, PNS Ghazi? Actually, PNS Ghazi was looking for India's solitary aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant. And they were suspecting Vikrant must be in the safest deep water harbor of India, that is Visakhapatnam. So they are just waiting outside and there is only one. It is very safe harbor. Let there be any massive cyclone, nothing, not a ripple comes inside. But its weakness is it has only one channel to come out. So PNS Ghazi, very brave person, actually very brave person, I must say, very brave. He came, there is a picture called Ghazi Attack. All this is bullshit. This is a Bollywood movie. But I really admire him. Must be having tremendous guts to come so close. He was trying to lay mines. Now, there are 2 possibilities. One is, whenever there was technical things, the Bengalis from East Pakistan, they are much more better than the West Pakistanis. So any intelligent work, Bengalis were in a higher number. So maybe it is the Bengalis from East Pakistan who sabotaged the submarine. Or it is possible that while laying the mines, it is a very, very tricky, very dangerous thing. Something went wrong and there was a massive explosion and PNS Ghazi sank just outside the harbor of Visakhapatnam. We only came to know because the wreckages, including dead bodies and the vest which the Pakistanis were wearing, they all came floating up, proving that, and then Indian naval divers could see and confirm that PNS Ghazi has sunk. Otherwise, its aim was to put torpedoes in INS Vikrant, which actually was not in Visakhapatnam. It was going up and down in the Port Blair, Andaman Islands. Actually, INS Vikrant, our sole aircraft carrier, it had the Seahawks. Now let me share something with you. India from German Navy is called Kriegsmarine. So they purchased Kriegsmarine Seahawks, which were actually purchased at a scrap value. They were brought to India, planes were serviced.